So when we're talking international divorce, where one spouse is here in Texas and the other spouse is in another country, abroad, overseas, etc., the first issue we run into sometimes is getting service on the spouse. So if you're the Texas anchored spouse and your spouse has left the country and gone elsewhere, and you need to get divorce papers served to that spouse, it often depends on exactly where in the world they are on how we're going to get service to them. Now, there's too many countries in the world for us to break down here and give you an explanation of everything. But if that's a situation you're in, it's a challenge you need to be aware of, that it's not always easy to get the papers served to your spouse if they're the ones overseas. So when we handle a Texas divorce, the Texas divorce court can only divide stuff that's in Texas or that's accessible to Texas. The Texas divorce court is not going to divide, for instance, real estate that's overseas. But what we do is we put a value on it on a spreadsheet, and oftentimes it's just offset against other assets. So generally speaking, we're not going to be able to divide assets across borders, but we can compensate for them. One of the questions we get here quite often in dealing with international divorce is conflicting laws. People are concerned that the laws in Texas conflict with the laws of the country where the other spouse is. Well, if the divorce is filed in Texas, we're going to deal with it in Texas, and guess what? We're dealing with it under Texas law. Doesn't really matter what the law in the other country is. We're going to deal with it in Texas. So the way child custody normally works in an international case is that we're going to deal with it under Texas law, and we're going to assign the roles according to the laws of Texas, where one parent's going to more than likely be named the primary conservator, the other parent's going to be the possessory conservator who's going to have visitation, and all that's generally handled under Texas law. We set up the regime in Texas, and there can be travel. There can be one spouse is allowed to travel with the child for certain amounts of time, etc. We generally do that based on the child being anchored in Texas. We generally don't deal with that in a situation where the child's real life is in another country. In that case, that custody issue might be carved out in that other country. It's hard to say. We'd have to talk to you about your exact facts. If you're somewhere out in the world and not in Texas, or you're here in Texas and your spouse is out somewhere else in the world and you need to get a divorce and you've got questions about how things work with child issues, money issues, division issues, divorce issues, contact us at Von Dohlen Law with any questions.